Liberalism is one of the foundational political ideologies of the modern world. It emerged alongside the decline of feudalism and the rise of constitutional government, market economies, and individual rights. At its core, liberalism is distinguished by its commitment to individual freedom as the highest political value, and by its insistence that government power must be limited in order to protect that freedom. Unlike ideologies that begin with collective goals, such as national glory, religious authority, or economic equality, liberalism begins with the individual. Liberal political theory asks a fundamental question. What must political authority look like if individuals are to remain free? Individual freedom as the foundational value. The central moral assumption of liberalism is that individuals are moral agents, capable of reason, choice, and responsibility. Because individuals possess inherent dignity, they are entitled to a sphere of life in which they can think, speak, believe, associate, and act without arbitrary interference. This commitment to freedom is not merely psychological or cultural, it is political. Liberalism holds that individuals are not born to serve the state, a ruler, or a ruling class. Instead, political authority exists to serve individuals, not the other way around. Freedom, therefore, is not a gift from government, but a condition that government must respect and protect. Historically, this view stood in direct opposition to absolutist monarchies and theocratic systems, where authority flowed downward from God, tradition, or hereditary rule. Liberalism reversed that logic by asserting that political legitimacy flows upward from the consent of the governed. Constitutional limits on government power. Because power has a natural tendency to expand, liberalism insists that government must be constrained by constitutional limits. A constitution is not merely a legal document, it is a political mechanism designed to prevent the concentration and abuse of power. Liberal constitutionalism rests on several interrelated ideas. Government authority must be defined and enumerated. Power must be divided across institutions. No branch of government may operate above the law. Fundamental rights must be placed beyond ordinary political bargaining. This commitment explains liberalism's historical emphasis on written constitutions, separation of powers, checks and balances, and judicial review. From a liberal perspective, unconstrained political authority, no matter how well intentioned, poses a threat to freedom. The rule of law. Central to liberalism is the principle of the rule of law, which holds that laws must govern, not individuals. In a liberal system, laws are general, not targeted at specific persons or groups. Laws are publicly known, and predictable laws apply equally to rulers and citizens alike. Legal procedures are transparent and consistent. The rule of law protects individuals from arbitrary power by ensuring that political authority operates through stable, impersonal rules rather than personal discretion. This principle stands in contrast to authoritarian systems, where laws often function as tools of control rather than safeguards of liberty. Importantly, liberalism does not oppose law itself. On the contrary, it views law as the instrument through which freedom is secured, provided that law is limited, impartial, and rights-respecting. Individual rights. Liberalism places strong emphasis on individual rights, particularly civil and political liberties. These rights function as moral and legal boundaries that political power may not cross. Core liberal rights include freedom of speech and expression, freedom of religion and conscience, freedom of association, the right to private property, due process, and equal protection under the law. What distinguishes liberal rights from privileges is that they are not contingent on government approval. In classical liberal theory, rights exist prior to the state and impose obligations upon it. Even in modern liberal systems, where the state plays a more active role, rights remain central as constraints on political authority. Limited government. All of these principles converge in the liberal commitment to limited government. Liberalism does not deny the necessity of government. Rather, it defines government's role narrowly. The primary function of the state is to protect individual rights, enforce the rule of law, maintain public order, provide a framework for voluntary social and economic interaction. Disagreements within liberalism between classical liberals, modern liberals, and libertarians largely concern how limited government should be and what additional responsibilities, if any, it should assume. However, all liberal traditions agree that government power must never become absolute or unchecked. Key contributors to liberal thought. The development of liberalism spans centuries and includes a wide range of philosophical, legal, and economic thinkers. Among the most influential are John Locke, articulated natural rights, consent of the governed, and the moral limits of political authority. Adam Smith developed economic liberalism and the moral case for free markets. Montesquieu advanced the theory of separation of powers. John Stuart Mill defended liberty through the harm principle and freedom of expression. Immanuel Kant grounded liberal freedom in moral autonomy and human dignity. Alexis de Tocqueville analyzed democracy, liberty, and civil society in America. Friedrich Hayek warned against centralized planning and defended the rule of law. Robert Nozick articulated libertarian limits on state power. Together, these thinkers shaped liberalism as a tradition that combines moral philosophy, political design, and institutional restraint. Concluding, prospective liberalism remains one of the most influential and contested political ideologies in the modern world. Its enduring relevance lies in its insistence that political power exists for the individual, not above the individual, whether debated, modified, or criticized. Liberalism continues to provide the conceptual foundation for constitutional democracy, civil liberties, and the modern understanding of freedom.